On this week's episode, we're going to be joined by the best father and son duo since Gary Ablett Senior and Junior, Mr. Paul Roos and Dylan Roos. Thanks very much for joining me on Break the Ice.
Thanks, mate. How are
Thanks
you?
for having me, big boy.
Thanks for having us in your home, and yeah, nice early start. Really appreciate that.
Well, I didn't realise it was such a big operation, you blokes. This
Cameras.
is bigger than Fox Footy.
just a bit more than the camera phone, the iPhone.
Exactly right.
Thanks very much for having us. So yeah, today we're going to be chatting about everything from, I guess, leadership and what you guys are doing for men's mental health, and I guess a bit of your past playing history, Paul. We can go back down memory lane, if that's all right. So yeah, what's the main thing that's happening with the Roos Men's Club? Do you want to have a little bit of chat about what's in the works and what's happening down the future?
Yeah, I guess it was an interesting exercise. It sort of started, over 12 months ago, and it was just an idea sort of born out of the fact that, if we went to a yoga class or a meditation, it was mainly sort of women, and it started to think, well, why is, guys not looking after themselves perhaps as much? So it's a bit of a leap of faith just to sort of say, well, let's put on an event and see who comes and create a safe environment for guys to come together and maybe do some things they wouldn't normally do, talk about things they might normally talk about, and create a sort of tribe of guys that are like-minded. We're up to, what have we done, 4 events now?
4 so far. We got another one coming up in September, and we started with the yoga event, so 60 guys doing yoga and meditating. It was pretty cool to see. Not too many flexible guys in the room, but Dad and myself did it, so I think that kind of made them feel a bit more comfortable. And it's something funny happens when you do get guys in a room just with guys. Their guards kind of come down a little bit. So we've been very fortunate with the guys that have come along and joined us, that we've had a lot of really good guys come through our 4 events, and we're pretty happy with how it's going. So the first one was pretty cool though. That was probably my favourite one, seeing 60 guys doing downward dogs and the savasana and all that. So that was pretty cool. Yeah.
Wow, whatever tickles your fancy, mate. That's
exactly, yeah.
And then we've sort of introduced meditation in each one, where Tammy comes and does that. Yeah. We've had neuroscience. Shelley was really good, talking about how the brain functions, the man's brain in relation to leadership. Wayne Swash was great. He did a really good talk on his journey, and that particular night we had Nick Rewald, Nathan Jones, but more from a player welfare point of view, what happens at a footy club and how players are looked after, which was really, really good. Yeah. The next one's going to be probably just more of a networking and getting guys to know each other a bit more. It's always hard to jam the networking part in. You're trying to do a breakfast, it goes for sort of 2.5 hours, lunch, so you try to give them some good information. Yeah. And then my other company, the last one we had a meal, we did a sort of joint venture with Performance by Design, and we did a really cool session on behaviours and a bit of an audit for each of their companies. So look, it's been really well received, and we're looking forward to continuing that.
Yeah, I think there's a big niche in the market, especially around men's mental health, and men speaking up about their personal issues and struggles with whether that be anxiety or depression. Recent players like Adam Treloar have just come out and been brave enough to spread that message. Dane Beams, all these players coming out. I think it's great just for the general public to see that these role models, these idols of theirs, go through the same struggles. They have their own issues, and you guys are bringing light to such an important topic and a very topical situation at the moment.
Yeah, I think for us it's probably more about the overall. I mean, I'm not an expert in mental health, so I suppose we just got to be careful where we position it. I think for us it's just getting guys together, and if they want to talk about that sort of stuff, that's great. As I said, we had Wayne share his story, but probably our main focus is if those things come out during one of our meetings, it's great, and there's a connection. Because what we do know is, certainly from my experience, being a coach for a footy club, as soon as a player lets you know what's happening, it just lifts away the world off his shoulders. So we're probably more around men's wellness and leadership. And obviously one of the things I think Swatter said one night is everyone has mental health. I think we often refer to mental health as people that have got depression or anxiety or mental illness, but everyone has mental health. And one of the things I learnt from, again, being a coach of a footy club, it's better to be preventative than fix the problem when it happens. So if we can create a really good environment where guys, and then they might get twigged by something, Swat has said and go, oh, actually I'm starting to feel like that. Maybe I should go and see my mate, or I'll follow up with Swat at the end, or I'll find out what I can do. So again, I think making it clear, we're not really experts on mental illness, but what we are trying to create is just a really safe environment to get guys together collectively, hopefully to learn, listen, just get better leaders, look after themselves way better, and then as a result, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of great benefits and flow on.
Yeah, that's it. And just talking in that sphere around leadership, like Paul, yourself, you're renowned as one of the great leaders of all time. Like you've captained Fitzroy, you were named captain of the Victorian side, where you won the EJ medal best of field twice. You're an All-Australian side 7 times. You were named captain twice. Like we can just go on and on. We can just go on. I'll get an autograph later. But in essence, you were always a leader at your football club, and then going on to coach Sydney to the premiership in 2005, where it had been such a long wait. Was that something that was naturally born within you? When people say you're a natural leader, was that something that was instilled from you early on, or did you manifest?
Yeah, it's a question I get asked a fair bit about. Is it innate? Is it born in you? I think to a certain degree, everyone's got certain characteristics that they're good at and bad at, but I think it's environmental as well as natural. I mean, I can't remember being. I think I was a captain every now and then in my junior teams, but it was not something that was huge when I was a kid, and then I had great role models when I first arrived at Fitzroy. I mean, I look at leaders as role model. I think if we change the vernacular from a leader to a role model, then leaders come in different shapes and forms, and the way they communicate and operate and all that sort of stuff. But first and foremost, you have to be a role model, and whatever you want people to do following you, you have to do it yourself. So I learned from my mum and dad. My mum was really competitive. My dad was sort of the consummate professional and very fair and played by the rules, and he was on all the committees, the footy club committee, and so I think there's a bit of that as well. But certainly the leaders that I learnt from at Fitzroy were great examples of what leadership looked like, and I just sort of put my head down, bum up, and listened to them and learned. And then coaches, I mean, coaching's changed dramatically from when my first coach, Robert Walls. I mean, we were all part-time back then, so the evolution really took place probably mid to late 90s, where it became full-time. So I think that was a massive transition from sort of that disciplinarian tell. And to be fair to Robert and David Parkin and those guys, they didn't have enough time to consult anyone. We were basically training at 5 in the afternoon and getting home at 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. So I watched the evolution of coaching through Robert and David, and then the other coaches I had with Robert Shaw and Rod Austin, and then Rodney Eade, and just watched it transition into a much different environment now. Yeah,
that's it. And you must have learned a lot, from your parents, because talking about fairness, I believe you didn't miss a game through suspension. You may have been reported once, but cleared.
Yeah, I got reported for abusing the umpire, but the umpire apologized.
There's one good clip if you give it. I think it's on YouTube.
Well, it's very different back then. I mean, the good thing is that the way the umpire we had great relationships with the umpires. It's just you just spoke to them differently. And I remember the umpires giving me a spray one day too. Don't yell at me, you're playing terrible. I'm like, no, you're probably right. Head down. And so
beers after the game.
Yeah, we had a great relationship with the umpires. That's probably something that's missing now. So when I got reported, it was for abusing the umpires, and I got off, sort of thing. So look, my dad was a real strict stickler for the rules. I just remember that. Like whether that be tennis, he was a good tennis player and played tennis, and Mum was competitive. So I think you learn a lot from your environment growing up. And as I said, the Fitzroy boys that I went to, they were just great people. Really good guys. Gary Wilson, Bernie Quinlan, Laurie Serafini, Mickey Conlon, Ross Thornton, Leon Harris, just really good people. So it's hard, when you've got so many good people at your footy club when you first arrive, at 16, 17, you either fit in, you fit in and you do the things that are valued, and that's what I did at Fitzroy, and it was always about being a good person on and off the field.
Dylan, what was it like having, I guess, Paul, the great Paul Roos, as your dad? Was he just everyday dad, or was he, how we see him in the media?
I guess. Yeah. Like, I don't know any I don't have any other dads. It's just Paul. So I guess it was pretty normal. Like, he was, the big thing that I took away was he was kind of always there. He used to drop us off at school. When we were kindergarten, he used to come in and actually sit in class and help the teacher out. He's kind of like a teacher's aide, I remember. And kind of stuff that I definitely took for granted as a 5, 6-year-old. You just I didn't know any different back then. But no, their dads were around. It was kind of, mine was always there. And then, you know, we had a lot of, we had like a weekly coffee before school. So he was always kind of making time for us, and he did win Father of the Year.
I was going to say, rubber stamped.
So he's set the bar pretty high for me and Tyler moving forward.
Yeah, that's it. And yeah, your name comes up every time a coach has departed, unfortunately. A few coaches have gone by the wayside this year, and your name seems to come under the lights all the time. That Paul Roos can be like a director of coaching for us. Let's get him to Gold Coast. Reece Shaw's publicly said he'd love you at Kangaroos. Do you harbour ambitions for that, or is that something that?
Oh, when I speak, I suppose when I speak on the couch, it's more as a media commentator. You know that I think. If you look at Shawry, for instance, you know, with young coaches now, the footy departments are huge. You know, there's 44 players. I mean, there's probably 10 coaches, assistant coaches. There's 10 in your medical staff. There's your IT department. There's your player welfare department. So it's very difficult for a Reece Shaw to come in as a senior coach and be able to manage that whole environment. So I think what we'll see in the next, you know, even at the end of this year and moving into next year and beyond, you'll see different coaching structures. You know, you have different coaching departments because, you know, these young coaches. When I first started coaching in 2002 and full time in 2003, I only had 3 assistant coaches. You know, full time physio. You know, so even though the gap for me was quite big, it was nowhere near as big as what it is now. You know, so I think the structures have to change in footy clubs. You know, whatever that looks like. But I'm really strong on that. In terms of myself, you know, I enjoy doing what I'm doing at the moment. And as I said, anything I really talk on is more general from my point of view and what I think a footy club should look like.
So that is a potential for next.
Oh, to be honest,
right?
as I said, at the moment, there's no jobs that have been offered. I haven't spoken to anyone at any footy club about doing any roles, and I'm enjoying doing what I'm doing now. You know, I know people sort of get a bit carried away when. I know the media are a bit like this. Oh, John Longmire didn't say definitely, or Alistair Clarkson didn't. All you can do is answer the question when you ask the question. And as I said, I think there will be opportunities over, you know, maybe at the end of this year or next year. I think there has to be. You look at Brendan Bolton. I don't think Carlton gave him an opportunity to be successful. I don't think Stewie Jew's been given an opportunity to be successful. Hopefully with Reece Shaw, and if it's Teague, and if it's, Rats is a bit different, Brett Ratton, because he's done it before, you know, so if he gets the job, I think he's a bit better equipped from a management point of view. But we need to give these young coaches a much greater opportunity to be successful.
Yeah, just one final thing before we wrap this up. Just rewinding back to 2005, probably one of the most celebrated years in football. I guess what was the overwhelming feeling after winning the elusive premiership as a coach of the Swans?
Yeah, I remember the day. I think one of the big things I thought going into the day was that really trying to be present, you know, and trying to remember everything if we won, you know, you never know whether you're going to win or lose, obviously. So I made a really conscious decision and obviously there was no period in the last quarter you could sit back and say, this is pretty cool, and look around the crowd, because it was ended up being a, you know, Leo Barry mark at the, you know, with 3 seconds to go. But I certainly remember, you know, when Leo marked it, I didn't actually see the mark, but I remember someone yelling out, Leo's marked it, and then someone else yelling out, because we couldn't hear the siren in the coach's box, the siren's gone. And then really being present and just remembering the celebration with the coaches in the coach's box and all taking some time together, you know, walking on the ground and seeing the red and white, and then getting on the ground and seeing your family, but all the people that put in time, you know, the current staff, Richard Collis and, you know, Andrew Ireland, and then past people, Basil Sellers and Peter Wynard and Mike Willisey, and, you know, then the players, Barry Round and Paul Kelly gave me the cup, and I think that's when it hit you how big an impact it was. And then all the people in the rooms after the game, and then the next day at the Lakeside Oval, and then we had a parade in Sydney, which was amazing, you know, and then all the letters I used to get from Sydney people saying, oh, look, you know, it's been 72 years, and my dad, you know, thanks very much, you can die happy. And I always joke about, there must have been so many people died at the end of 2005. Well, we can die happy now, we can, you know, sort of thing. But I think the overall feeling was the impact that it had on so many people was probably something I'll forever be grateful to be involved in. And you know, understanding how many people, not just the people that were involved in the game that day or been involved in the club, you know, that year or in the previous 2 or 3 or whatever, but genuinely was, 72 years of hard work that got us to where we got to.
It's one of the most memorable grand finals of all time, and one of the most memorable after-match speeches as well. Paul, you could probably recite it pretty well. Dylan, didn't you run up onto the podium?
Yeah,
I think I saw something
Tyler
on the front.
ran up onto the podium, but I don't think I did. I can't remember. We were both in the team photo at the end of the game.
And they had to crop. The AFL had to crop it out.
Sent Dad a letter and said, "Mate, if you make the grand final next year, they can't be in it." So that was pretty funny. But
what are your memories of that day, Dill?
Oh, how old was I? I was 2005, I was 10, 11.
Yeah.
So not great memories. I do remember I remember when the siren goes and Mum crying, being pretty emotional, running down, trying to find our way under the ground. We were frantic, running, trying to get down there to see Dad. And then I remember the photo and then going into the rooms after and seeing Dad and all the players drinking out of the cup. And I remember the boys the next day being really hungover on the bus. I think it was a couple of the senior players just sleeping on the bus, and we were pretty annoying as kids, so we'd go run up and one player would tell us to go smack him, so we'd go smack some hungover player, and so it was definitely memorable. And then afterwards being with the extended family back at Nicky and Kev's, I remember that as well. So fragmented memories, but the overall feeling of just being really happy.
You've watched the replay a few dozen times.
I've watched the speech a couple of times actually.
You can recite it for us here.
Here it is. That's pretty good. I got a mate that every time I even just say, like Dad texts me or something. I was with him yesterday at lunch and Dad called me and he's in the background just screaming, "Here it is," over and over again. So it's definitely the most.
I've always wondered if you ever play on that just at home and you're trying to find the TV remote or something. Dill, have you found that remote?
No, not really.
Here it is.
So no, we probably should play it up a bit more.
No, I think Leo's marked to centre stage. So I've seen that more than the speech. Sort of thing,
Steve Quartermain with the famous words, wasn't it? "Leo Barry, you star."
One last roll of the dice for the Eagles! Leo Barry, you star!
Yeah, no, it's a huge moment for the footy club. So, when you look back, it's probably, given the rivalry between the two teams, it was appropriate that, those big moments happened and people can reflect on it, and, what a great game it was.
All right, so I just want to wrap it up. I want to thank you very much for joining us today, Paul. It's a great chat. Thanks
mate.
Dylan.
Cheers.
So stay tuned for the next episode.